My name is Olga, and as a survivor of domestic violence, it is a real pleasure to be invited to perform this audio podcast. My story spans slightly over 30 years and is more typical than we realize. I thought that because I had loving parents, a royal Russian ancestry, and a good home life, that I was immune from falling into a situation of domestic violence. I believed that because I had good grades, academic intelligence, and a post-secondary education, that I was immune from being psychologically and emotionally tortured. When my mother passed, I was 18, devastated and vulnerable. This was precisely when my ex-husband entered my life. He pursued me for 4 years. I finally agreed to date him when I was 22. On our third date, my ex-husband asked about my previous dating history. If I did not tell him, he threatened to kick me out of the car and leave me stranded. I have often thought that this would have been a good time to have walked away. I had bus tickets in my pocket, and my residence was a couple of kilometers away. However, he also told me that he could make me into a better person, that he wanted a family, and that he would be a good provider. After my 4 children were in school, he still did not work more than 6 hours per week. On the other hand, I worked over 60 hours per week to support my family in the lavish lifestyle my ex-husband demanded. I did this out of love for him. After my father passed, when I was 28, my ex-husband regularly told me that I was worthless, useless, and lazy. Despite our material trappings, the children and I were not permitted to be on the first, second, and third floors of our large home, excepting the family room. For over 10 years, I was not allowed to drive a car, have internet in the house, or possess a cell phone. The children and I were threatened, bullied, and belittled daily. I was groomed to believe that we deserved this criticism and sanctions on our freedom as we were not behaving the way he wanted us to be. Outside of eating, our family never was allowed to be together, as I was kept in the first floor family room while my children were kept in the basement on a 4 by 6 foot carpet. So we were separated on a daily basis. Any influence or connection with my children was further obliterated through my ex-husband's insults towards me while the family was eating, and through his encouragement of my children to do the same. Furthermore, I was chased up the stairs when I would try and see my children after work or on the weekend. During that same time, my ex-husband asked me my opinion on divorce and was shocked that I wasn't as against it as he was. But what could I say? My mother and father were each other's second spouses, and if they had not previously divorced, I would not be here. Nearer to the end of the relationship, I was just starting to stand up for myself and questioning my ex-husband's behavior. When I did confront him, he would throw a tantrum in front of the children and sometimes threaten to jump over the 3rd floor banister to the basement floor below. I felt terrible about what my life had become and decided that the solution was to improve myself. In 2010, I obtained a transitional support worker with whom I worked over the subsequent 6 years to help me with my lack of confidence and boundaries in an effort to become a better version of myself and to find myself again. My separation began in 2011 when a neighbor called the police as he noticed that my ex-husband refused to allow me to leave my house. I then accessed the victim support services to no avail. Unhappy about the separation, my ex-husband followed me around from 2011 to 2013. I lost several friends because of this. However, most of those friends who stayed were kind, caring, and optimistic, just what I needed. Although my solid friendships were positive ones, my interactions with the police were not. Even though I called them over 20 times, as there were 56 reportable incidents of harassment, the officers were unable to stop my ex-husband's activity. While the police were generally sympathetic, I did not feel protected and feared for my safety each and every day over the almost 3-year period until I purchased my current home. The police suggested that I outfit my home with 8 external security cameras to record unwanted intruders, which I did. Since I moved there, I have only seen my ex-husband drive by a couple of times. In 2013, I found a lawyer to process my divorce. Then I joined both Women's Weekly and WAWG's Women Against Violence Empowering Survivors Committee in order to tell my story, motivate others, get motivated by others, and facilitate change within the community for domestic violence survivors. Around that time, and even with my retention of legal representation, my ex-husband took my children away from me. My spirit still unbroken, I visited my children for 5 minutes once a week at their school. My ex-husband went to the school and told them to deny me access, which fortunately did not happen. The school asked for corroborating documentation, which my ex-husband did not possess. Besides telling me to acquiesce to all my ex-husband's financial demands, my lawyer at the time suggested that I give up hope of ever seeing my children again, since my ex-husband will only get them back again anyway. Her comments were disheartening to say the least. I hired another lawyer, and late in 2014, after a protracted legal battle, I ultimately received my 3 younger children 50% of the time. My eldest son came back to live with me for the past month. My relationships with all my children continue to improve each and every day. They know that I love them unconditionally. Furthermore, my ex-husband continued to interfere in my life by erasing my university work from the computer and harassing my coworkers until I had to be let go from my 2 jobs. By degrees, I lost my livelihood. Undeterred, I tried to think of other ways to earn income, like finding a tenant, which somehow also was stopped by my ex-husband. To support myself and my children from 2015 to 2016, I obtained temporary consulting contracts for 6 to 8 months of the year, which helped me to broaden and deepen my financial skills. At the same time, I contemplated selling my father's antiques to be able to put food on the table for my children. Fortunately, I was able to utilize community resources while surviving on a net amount of $1,000 per month during the time that I was out of work. I continued to purchase clothes, shoes, sports activity registration, and braces for my children and solely fund their education plans. The court process has left me financial crippled as I had to liquidate nearly all of my retirement savings and rely on my good credit rating to be able to afford to pay my ex-husband nearly $200,000 in equalization and to fund the hefty legal fees during 9 years of litigation, which is still ongoing. At any time, my ex-husband can apply to the courts to have his support payments increased. On a positive note, around the time that my divorce had been granted in 2016, I met a wonderful man, Michael, who has been uplifting and supporting me since day one. Finally, I no longer feel lost and overwhelmed. He assists me in being the best version of myself and does not control me at all. On the other hand, my ex-husband uses the legal system as his main means of control over me, which will be an ongoing thorn in my side. While I want to move on with my life and put this behind me, my ex-husband seems not to share the same view. As part of the divorce settlement, I was ordered to pay my ex-husband $10,000 per year in child support until he decides to work more than part-time hours. However, there is no incentive for him to do so. In fact, he took me to court several times in 2017 and 2018 in an attempt to triple my monthly payment to him and to obtain additional lump sum support arrears. Finally, in late 2018, the judge ordered a mediator to work with us, and my child support payments were reduced by almost 80%. I believe that the family court process does not give enough credence to domestic violence survivors and their collective rights. The judicial system repeatedly reiterated that abuse is not important and not relevant, just the dollars and cents. Had I not been manipulated, I would not have financed my ex-husband's lavish lifestyle, nor would my children and I have stayed in a horrific situation. Because I had done these things, I was subsequently required to fund my chronically underemployed ex-husband's current lifestyle. Insult was added to injury. Despite what I have been through and continue to endure, I have my physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual health. My optimism has not been crushed as I am finally free. During the last year, my confidence has facilitated my transition into a well-paying permanent job about which I am passionate. My reliance on credit to pay for expenses has also diminished during that time. I am no longer resentful of the systems that let me down and perpetuated the life cycle of my abuse throughout my marriage, separation, and divorce. I even forgave my ex-husband for the more than 30 years of abuse that he perpetrated against me and continues to try to do. Even though I lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, I can hopefully earn that back before I retire. I have my freedom and my sanity, and those are priceless. Moreover, Michael's support invigorates and motivates me into moving forward. I am moving on with my life, grateful for my partner, my children, the close friends, and community services that have set and kept me on my healing path. I am now only interested in surviving, thriving, and helping others in similar circumstances, knowing that I've been there and can help. Thank you for this amazing opportunity to contribute my story.